he put his hands on him and tried to grab him, so he didn't just touch him, he tried to grab him.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's not in Austin's. That's why I go back to whether the authority to enforce or not. That's not Austin's, position to enforce
That's
moving
fine, but does it justify
another minor from
the lethality?
Right. But that's one thing. So does stand your ground apply in this situation? Somebody grabs you and tries to move you from a place of force.
Well, my counter argument is that Carmelo already started this moving already. Like Carmelo already initiated this, provoked this interaction already. So that's my argument. That he's to blame.
He escalated it. You think?
No. He started it. The whole thing.
What?
Oh my goodness. Like, why is this so hard to know?
Wait, how can he start something if someone's coming up and saying, "Hey man, I'm gonna need you to move from up under a tent"?
Exactly.
The guy was reportedly 90 pounds over his weight, right? It's raining outside, so then he goes. It's in the police report. I put the link there.
In the police report, it says he's 90 pounds over his weight.
In the police report, it states what Carmelo's height and weight is. And in Austin's stats are online.
You're just adding up.
I'm not adding. I thought he was 60 pounds over his weight.
But Don, it did sound like you were suggesting that particular verbiage was in the police report. And Smo was, pointing directly to verbiage.
Carmelo's is there, but Austin's is online. I posted them a while ago.
In most legal cases, that's not going to fly anyway. Like, height and weight and size differences isn't usually going to apply very much.
I don't know why they keep on mentioning this when the only person who had the knife.
No, it's not. Not when it's men.
The reason why the threat's canceled out is because somebody armed themselves. So, for example, Don, I'm 6'7", I'm 270 right now. You would say, oh, he's intimidating. But would you feel the same way with the bazooka? If you had a bazooka? Of course not. You'd be like, I hope this dude try to test me right now.
Yeah, but that means, yes, I would, because that I have a choice. Am I going to use that bazooka? And that's my responsibility.
But you would no longer be in fear because you have an option to terminate me.
The height and weight arguments in some cases might sway the opinions of juries and things like that, but it usually isn't going to, lead a prosecutor or a DA to assign or not assign certain charges.
Man, I can't believe that you used the shuffle thing. Stilgar, what the hell was that, bro?
I didn't shuffle shit, dog.
What the freak was that, bro?
Nothing. I was 2-stepping. That wasn't a shuffle.
That was a...
Did the other mods report that I gave you credit some more or no?
About what? I got
Changing my mind.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh, dear God.
Oh, no.
You know what? Where's my mom?
So, you proved the actual mens rea of the entire case, of the entire action, right? The action was the stabbing, which is criminal in nature, but you have to prove the criminal intent. And for him to use provocation and provoking language is enough to prove the intent. That self-defense is not a viable option anymore. At all.
You don't know that there's a video and you haven't seen it.
It does not matter. If the transcript and the conversation is touch me and find out, that is provoking an action. That's no longer self-defense.
That's true.
That's looking for a response. And he was looking for a response. He's a kid. He fucked up. He's a hot-headed kid. He's an athlete.
So if I stand in front of you,
up the
Fine,
blame.
you guys got big dicks, that's great.
No, my dick's average.
If I stand in front of you and tell scream for you to punch me, you're gonna
My dick's
fucking punch me?
average is
What the
wild.
hell's going on, bro?
Yeah, put a PTO.
No, my God.
No, he's right.
Oh
He's
my
right.
God.
That is in the eyes of the law provocation.
So if I stand in front of you and tell you to punch me,
Yes.
punch me.
Yeah, and then I punch you.
Punch me and find out. Yeah.
Yes, and you punch me back, and then claim self-defense. That wouldn't
No, I don't touch you and you punch me.
I mean, I think
after.
just on the proportionality requirement for a self-defense claim in Texas, I think it falls flat. Because the force used has to be proportionate to the threat faced.
That's not entirely true.
I
though,
don't
because the thing
see
is, you
how
can argue.
being pushed is proportional to being stabbed.
That's easy.
You
That's
can
an easy
argue
one.
losing control in the moment, right?
That can be argued.
There's a
Yeah.
passion claim.
So
But how?
I still
But
subscribe to the
how if
concept.
he's saying, basically, touch me and see what happens, and he has his hand in the bag?
It's just
Because-
that phrase that causes him to be guilty.
Well,
That's it.
and also to your point, shoving somebody that could be lethal as well. You could fall over, you can hit your head. You don't have to wait around for the person to rise to
It
that
has nothing
level
to do with
of
that.
proportionality. If you're on the street, right, all things being equal, you're on the street, you're on public property, there's no question about domain or authority or who can say who can leave or who can't leave. And the person is lawfully in possession of a weapon. If somebody comes up to me and starts shoving me up against a wall or pushing me or inhibiting my movement, that's not even just assault, that's battery. And you're creating a condition in which you can use force to defend yourself. I think the problem here is he wasn't supposed to be in possession of that weapon on that property either, so that also precludes him from a self-defense claim. If you're in unlawful possession of the item that you're utilizing to defend yourself, you've already precluded yourself from.
I'm looking at this differently now. I used to think like, no, there's no way.
I can't believe they kicked me. How annoying. I'll just have to go back with another burner account and wait the next hour out. So stupid. It's like, why bother kicking when you know there's a million burner accounts out there that just come right back in? It actually makes the game more fun. Where are you, my little friends? Chillism, 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 chillism.
That's wild. I don't get ghost notifications, but yeah.
Yeah.
I do miss those just nice social rooms.
No, I need to go to bed, but I just want to check out one other thing with you, Geronimo. Just check this out, which is I really, my experience when I've come into Russ's spaces, both the two main spaces, have been that this is like almost a family. This has really become a family. Which I have, as I said before,
It's a family.
Respect for it. I mean, I think what it takes to create a space like that, create that level of safety and, reciprocity and collaboration is just phenomenal. I'm interested in knowing whether you felt at all protective of that space tonight. That suddenly that was kind of your guys' space, and now other people were in there, sort of presenting some other stuff in kind of like in your family room. I don't know. I'm way too tired to try to articulate this, but I want to ask that of you.
I think I get the gist of what you're saying. No, if you take away one thing about the poetry community is we welcome all. First time writers. We have people in our community who are suffering from or coming from battling a stroke, and their language is delayed or more difficult than what it was before, and we take the time out and we listen to them intently. People from every walk of life in every area. The poetry community of all things on this app is extremely open to newcomers. We encourage people to write because we know, for one, we expanding our community and listening to people is our key component. So if we know that listening can be healing to be heard, and we know that expressing yourself in a healthy manner is great. It's human. It's loving on someone without it being intrusive. Just to take the time out to listen. So no, we definitely are open to anybody and everybody. Just having, as long as they have respect for the space and understand we maintain a certain level in the spaces of decency, respect, and those type of things. Keep it a safe space, a truly safe space.
Well, yeah, I guess I that's not really what I meant. I mean, my personal experience has been exactly what you're describing. Whenever I come to the space, I feel exactly what you're sharing. And that's, just so you know, that's my 40 years of my life has been spent doing exactly what you're talking about. That's what my work is, and that's what my life has been about. So that's why I respect what happens in there so much, and it feels very welcoming and very inclusive. So I hear you. What I was asking was whether you felt, or whether you, or if you feel any of the poets in that space felt like there was an intrusion on any level tonight of this space becoming something different, with new other people modding it with a different agenda than what normally happens in there. That was my question.
Oh, well, absolutely not, because that's like challenging a poet's mind to, like, how we get prompts.
Right.
So this is a prompt of a different order, a completely different order. So this may require you to click over into the other half of your hemisphere, not so more creative. Touch on some of the hard sciences or concrete ideas instead of being so abstract. It just you I don't know if you ever seen the movie Dodgeball, but they had a coach on there, and he said, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a dodgeball. He started throwing wrenches at the students. I think as far as poetry goes, we carry that philosophy, and so we think that anything that's different strengthens our pen and our ability to write and become better poets.
Cool. That's great. All right, well,
as long as it's not pro-Trump.
Go to sleep since I can't even talk. Thanks for the experience tonight, Brian.
You got it. Take care, Al.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Bye, Dr.
Al.
Good
Hey,
night.
guys. Lots of love.
Sleep well.
See you tomorrow.
Sweet dreams, princess.
How's everybody else doing this fine evening after that room?
Well, I was pretty much in and out. I wasn't sure if I was called on to do anything.
No, you're all good. It was very much a lot of people. It was a bigger room, so a lot of people were in and out. But yeah, I think it was just nice and chill and exploring this for the first time.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it was nothing relevant. It was today or yesterday.
The room just happened just before.
It was right now. Oh.
before coming here. Yeah, it's just like a couple minutes ago. You missed out by just a few minutes, Nisa.
And I was working all the time, so I didn't get a chance to really participate or soak in the room. But I definitely wanted to be there, to be in, to see what it was. Curiosity.
They feel offended I missed it.
It was audacious, to put it mildly.
All right.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I liked it. I think it turned out pretty good. I know this is very strange. My only criticism I've always had of the poetry community is that sometimes I'm worried that that criticisms won't be. It's so supportive that sometimes you don't get that honest. Like, you know what? No. That wasn't very good.
No.
You gotta do better.
No, that was pro-Trump. No way.
Was that good? Like, was that...
Was that too conservative?
From their country.
Yeah, so, brother, here's what you're doing.
Not necessarily. You don't like people. I mean, don't they?
Understand black.
They caucus, Caucasian, but they're not from the caucus.
Correct.
Yeah. So hold on. So we understand when you say black, you're talking about a term that's used in America that talks about African descendants of slavery. African descendants of slavery. That's what you're referring to as black. When we're talking about Americans, a lot of them. Yeah. So Africans that come over here, they're distinct because they still have their culture intact, right?
100%.
Right. So now that's what you're battling over. So not different from them genetically. We are kinda. I'll explain that a little bit later. But we're different from them culturally. They have a different cultural outlook. Their culture don't merge with American culture. We're like 70-80% single parent home, mainly females. They uphold the education differently than we do. They uphold the different moralities than we do. They adhere to a different type of Christianity than we do. So we're not the same culture, right? We're not. So, but that's the whole thing. Genetically, we come from West Coast of Africa, or Central Africa, or something.
So I don't agree with that. Go ahead.
Oh, my mic sound terrible.
Someone's trying to talk. Go ahead.
No, yeah, nigga got hot is good. You're just a little. I got hot feelings. A little too close.
Oh, I am. So how's it now?
Much better, brother.
All right. So yeah,
that's. And you're cooking, by the way, bro.
Yeah, that's the truth. So when you with the average African American male, 2/3 of us is going to test E1B1A. Another third of us is going to be something else. Why? Because it's America. We admix. You know what I'm saying? Somebody could have had like,
that's the problem right there.
Well, it's not a problem. It's America. Like the same thing could be said of any race. Any race has that admixture percentage. But Japanese Americans who come over here, or Japanese that come over here, and they become Japanese American, that girl may marry a black man, or that man may marry a black girl, or they might marry a white man or white woman. You know what I'm saying? That's just America. You go to college, you meet somebody. Nobody really cares about race at that point.
I mean, I hear you, right? And I'm glad you brought up the DNA thing, because it's true that they have a correlation. But this is the biggest problem. When it comes to the books, the records, the family stories, we do not have any lineage from Africa at all.
What?
You don't have anything. There's no black person that can go from this time back to Africa. Not one black person.
I can't.
Sure there is, bro.
Hold on a second.
Sure there is.
Even so, why do you not like Africans? Why are you racist?
So first of all, it's not
racist
for Africans. I'm saying the slave trade story that they gave us
It
is
is not
true.
Okay, bro. Let me ask you a question, man. Okay. You ever heard of a book called A Story of a Negro?
Yes.
Of the Negro? Okay, who wrote that book?
I'm not sure of the author, but I know what you're talking about.
Booker T. Washington wrote that book.
Okay. All right. What were you saying about that?
Somebody muted me up. So that's not true what you just said. You said we cannot trace ourselves back. Bro, you do know that in Louisiana, Gullah Geechee, voodoo, when we get the whole thing about what Southern blacks practice, that come from African voodoo. Like the stuff they practice in the Caribbean, that came from African voodoo.
So tell me this: what was our names and our language before they stopped us from reading and talking?
It's good. It depends, because even when you go back to West Africa, check this out. You're not going to have a consistency there either. You know why? Because you had Islam, you had Mohammedans that came in, you had Christianity that came in. Well, if you were still in West Africa, the language you probably be speaking is a combination of your native language and a little bit of Arabic. That's a fact. Because Islam came through. Yeah, that came through 700 years before the transatlantic slave trade. And the trans-Saharan slave trade was already there 1,400 years.
Thank you, because the Arabs were actually the root of the slave trade, because they were enslaving Africans a long part of history, and they don't talk about that.
That's a fact. But here's the problem we're going to have. There's a geographer by the name of Al-Yaqubi. He studied something what's called the Diwans, which is an Arabic chronicle of what the people actually believe there. The Hausa states, this of the Yoruba people, they already testified they've been there before the Arabs came there. So our DNA is actually older there than before the Arabs came.
So when you say our DNA, you're talking about like what connects like the Igbo tribes, or like us?
E1B1A comes from the highlands of Ethiopia. That's EV38. That's the
highlands of Ethiopia.
Y chromosome that passed from father to son to father to son.
Perfect. So what is that gap that they don't tell us about? Remember, you said like the two-thirds
It's a gap between the Ethiopian highlands that go straight to Wakanda.
African males are E1B1A. That's West Sub-Saharan Africa.
Slaves to
One third of African American males are something else because of slavery and or your mom married a white man, or your great grandma married a white man.
But they don't know. They don't know, or they say they don't know that 1/3 though, right?
What are you talking about? They don't know. No, they do know. If you go and get a genetic test, a real one, you can find out what your Y haplogroup is.
Correct. But all I'm saying is I know what you're talking about, right? So we have A1B1A, which is basically us. But there's another one that they don't talk about.
No, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. When I say E1B1A, that's the male Y haplogroup from Africa. Let's say back in the day, your mom, or not your mom, but your dad's grandmother was raped by a white man on a plantation.
All right.
Now you a black man in America, but guess what haplogroup you got? You got a white R, or you got an R1B, or some other type of haplogroup that comes from Europe. You black. You a black American, all that. But going back a couple generations, you could have a great-great-grandfather that's white.
So let me ask you this, though. What about the natural aboriginal black Indians, which I know there were black Indians that were kept out and kicked out, correct?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
So listen, it's called the triangle slave trade.
Oh,
not the... No, listen. Everybody knows that term. Triangle slave trade. You know why? West Africa to America, and Americans, they went where? They went right back up to the east.
That's actually not true, because...
Oh, my goodness.
So what makes them black, right? What makes them black?
Well, here's the thing. So that's not true. So here's the thing. Number one, 85% of the world is melanated. Get that right there. So there is no special type of black. If you go to Southeast Asia, they're dark skinned. If you go to Africa, obviously they're dark skinned. If you go to Arabia, they're dark skinned. If you go to the natives in America, they were dark skinned. So it's nothing special about black. Now, here's another fact. If you look at Indians, native Indians, guess what? They lack, as well as the Asians that come from that Bering Strait, they lack a gene that can break down alcohol. Africans and Europeans can. So they won't be us if they can't break down alcohol the way we can break down alcohol. And they can break down lactose a different way we break down lactose. So we're not the same
alcohol. But you said I was wrong about the triangle slave trade, though.
No. You're wrong saying that there was some black people removed from America that were natives and brought over there. That's not true. I would say that they were a melanated people, but melanated people don't mean they black. They black like me and you. That's crazy.
So what I'm saying is that you have the transversal triangle, right? You know how we say transatlantic, just from east to west?
So let me tell you why that's not likely. Because did you know that slavery in America didn't get started till 1619? So early on, the slaves actually came to Central and South America. That's why Brazil is 50-something% black. Later on in the slave trade, black slaves came here. Check this out. They were indentured servants.
I know what you're talking about.
Right. So one of the first black servants that came here by employment. They didn't come here by slave trade the way that they talk about the Central America and all that, because America didn't have no product. There was sugar cane. There was stuff like that.
We did have product. We did.
No. That was later when corn got popular and then cotton got popular. That was later in the slave trade, bro. Only 1 million, little over 1 million slaves came to America.
If that's true, there's too many. How do you say? We have corn on the east, like in Africa and like all this stuff. We have cocaine over on the other side of the world. We have too many things that are only grown here that are on that side. Listen, this is a fact.
Bro, listen. We want listen. Okay, so you're talking about coca leaves and stuff, man. You're talking about Central South America, bro. You're a black American. That means your family came here after 1700s.
So that's what I'm saying is that's your story, and it's fine. I'm saying that all the research that I've done makes that not true. Because listen, first of all, 5% of the slave trade went to America. Only 5%.
That's what I'm saying. It was later too. It was much later.
Well,
it was later, bro. Look it up. The late in the transatlantic slave trade was when we got here in America. Before that, blacks were hitting Central and South America way before we even got here to America.
And the Americans, though, so if you know they were hitting it like hundreds of years before Christopher Columbus, right? What makes you think they were not hitting it up here?
What are you talking about? Okay, bro. Okay, you mixing stuff up.
Can I ask Wright something?
Yeah, sure.
What makes you black? What do you think makes you black? What feature or whatever about your culture makes you black?
I would say culturally wise, it would be the soul food, it would be the afro, it would be the music, and it would be the dance.
So how did we define black? How is black defined?
I just did.
Anyone who did that was black.
Yes, because it only starts and comes from here. Absolutely. Like rap. Rap is only from here.
It's Gilly too. So
okay, so the Native Americans are also black?
Yes, they were black Native Americans.
All of them were black.
No, they were not. So listen, everybody knows they were black Native Americans.
No, they were black.
Let him go with this for. I'm just trying to get an understanding because I know these people exist, but I've never actually talked to one. I'm a bit intrigued.
Yeah, but don't you think it's better when two black Americans have that conversation amongst themselves rather than, we come in the middle as Africans?
No. I'm just trying to talk to him.
Let's go. Let's all talk.
If he's okay with talking to me, then I don't see the issue. If Wright doesn't want to talk to me as a African, someone from Africa, that's fine. I'll lay back. But
sister, please, let's talk. Absolutely.
Okay, so if you're saying that not all the Native Americans were black, then what makes you black?
So first of all, there was a light skin, the straight hair, the fair skinned Indians that you see today. To me, they look like Mexicans mixed with Asians, without the racism. And we look like we look today. Mind you, we mixed with a lot of things, but we still look the same way today. Small noses, afro hair, bronze skin.
So where do you think you got those features from if you're living in the same country and you come from the same place?
Well, I truly believe that we've been mixing for a long time, like everybody has. But I think we keep our original detailed features.
Okay.
Like, I would say this: like when you see Ethiopian, Eritrean, and Somalian, they're not from West Africa. Would you agree with that?
Right.
And that's all I'm saying is that there's certain things that between the ages it stays consistent for whatever reason.
Bro, man,
do you think that maybe at some point you mixed with Africans?
Oh, absolutely, 100%, absolutely.
So this is what gives you your black features.
Nah, man, come on, bro. You lying through your teeth, bro. Come on, bro. That ain't even true what you just said.
What part of what I said wasn't true?
Okay, you putting it as if that we were Native Americans that were black, and we mixed in with some of the slaves that came over here from Africa, and we became a unique type of people. You're trying to make African Americans distinct by them somehow the story that we were here natively before the slave trade began. That's false, bro. You grabbed it off of YouTube somewhere. That's not true.
So the fact
here's why. Because, okay, I'm gonna just tell you straight up. Okay, Native Americans, what were their haplogroups?
I don't know. They don't tell us about their haplogroups.
Nah, bro. Yes, they do, bro.
So what is it?
I'm gonna tell you. So, they're Q. Look it up. They're Q3 and they're Q3, they're Q3A, and they're C3. Now, this haplogroup spreads all throughout the Bering Strait, all of America, really ancient, down into South America. The Taino Indians, all that stuff. No, they all are Q. And here's the thing: they have a trouble in their genome where they can't digest certain foods. We can, right? They don't have sickle cell anemia, bro. Listen, I'm trying to tell you. So now, when we're talking about Black Americans, here's what we are. This is what a Black American is. I'm gonna just lay it out right here. Black American is an amalgamation of blacks from all over the continent of Africa. They got swept up into a unified slave trade, and we defined a new culture there. We're mixed because we mixed in with Jews, we mixed in with Asians, we mixed in with white people, all the stuff. And when we mixed in with those people, we became a unique group of people with our own.
The super now.
That's what the Black culture is. It's not something about we was natives here with straight hair and all this stuff like you're talking about. We don't have Q. We don't pass out when we drink alcohol. When we develop fat, we develop it subcutaneously. We don't develop it within the rib cage like most Asians do. It just don't fit genetically, bro. You can't just slide that in here, especially when people been reading about it. That don't work.
All right, so let me say this. Hold on. He already debunked you, bro. Let me say this right here. So I just got in real quick, and I read the topic. Why do black people blame white people for everything? So my take is this, right? So European colonialism happened throughout the whole world, not just the Americas. And by Americas, I mean America, South America, both continents. It happened throughout the whole world. Why don't the Indians, the Saudis, the Arabs, the Africans, they don't blame the white man for everything. They do what they have to do, and they've been got themselves out the mud.
Thank you.
The reason why Black Americans always blame, okay, racism happened, 400, 500 years? Still, colonialism happened throughout the world more than that.
Hold up, did you say
South
Africans don't blame?
I never once said South
No, I'm
Africa.
asking you, Leon. Did you just say that South Africans don't blame white people?
Oh, before he goes very off, because
I'm asking, bro.
I did not say South Africa. I said Africans. I never said South Africa.
South Africans are very
here we go again.
loving, so yeah,
Hiding behind the moniker of Africa. So are you saying that Africans don't blame white folks for some do.
They still got that foot on their neck.
I'm not talking to you, ma'am. I'm talking
you
to
said
Leon.
Africans. I am African.
Let me just.
I mean, is this a one-person conversation? If it is, take it somewhere else.
No, I mean, if I'm addressing someone, and then
I
you're
didn't
coming
finish
from
the
the side.
conversation that was
I have
happening
an
before
issue with
Leon
everything
came
I
in.
say. Get a fucking grip, dude.
I didn't get to finish what.
Let's all take a breath. Let's all take a breath.
What mic on Leon, bro?
Yeah, hold on. Let me just finish what I was saying. So European colonialism happened throughout the whole world, right?
No.
And everybody, it really did. But let me finish what I was saying. It happened throughout everywhere, and they all experienced that. They all dealt with that. And they all ended up, even though they had the same trauma as quote-unquote Black Americans had that same trauma, they all went their own little route when it comes towards how they dealt with that trauma, right?
No, absolutely not.
All right, so you'll have time to rebut. What I'm saying is, nobody's ever different. We're all the same. It is all about how you handle things differently and how you deal with your own little situation. All right, go ahead, man.
Where are you from, brother? Real quick.
I'm from New York, New Jersey, bro.
What's your lineage? Like, where's your family from?
My family's from Africa.
Okay, what I'm saying is that were you ever held as slaves and as servitude, like Black Americans were?
My ancestors, no, they were never.
And to me, colonization means they move in and they take over. It goes from this culture to that culture. Did they colonize your country, or did they do like the Romans, like conquer you but let you keep your culture?
Hey, right. Hey, hold up, Leon. I know I know you're lying, bro. And this is what
Bull,
you
let
do,
him
right?
answer the joint, man.
No, but he's not answering you, and you're not peeping game.
Let him talk.
Okay, Have at it, Hoss. But don't cry later when you get tricked, and then it's all Africans, right? Because I'm African, and I'm trying to help you out.
But now let them talk.
Yeah, but don't cry later.
Behind the moniker of Africanism, bully.
Go ahead, Leon.
Hey,
what you got?
I know where you're from, Hills. Watch yourself.
Cool. Come get me.
Leon, you gonna rebuttal or you ain't got nothing?
I was waiting for everybody to start talking.
No, you gotta just talk in here.
Oh, okay, all right. So, repeat your question, bro.
What I was saying is that Black America, we have what is called, cattle slavery, the hard slavery, versus Africans. We both got taken over by Europeans, quote unquote. We got colonized, took us over, moved in, changed the culture, changed the ethnicity. Africans, they didn't change the ethnicity, change the culture. They ruled it in the shadows. Would you disagree or agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Now, what is the difference between, mind you, I agree with you where we both got messed up, basically, 100%. But what is the biggest difference in
Hey, Kevin, you gotta stop this, bro.
Yo, Bull, man. Hey, Bull, if you don't answer the question, then you answer it.
Yeah, it's bullshit, bro. First of all, one point of correction.
No.
His people.
Do you agree or disagree with what I said?
I disagree, bro.
With
Africa
what part?
is not a monolith, man.
I didn't say that. I said we were in captivity.
You're framing everything in absolutes, which is hilarious, bro.
No, you don't answer any questions.
And he's gonna follow that moniker because he's agenda driven. His people
hold on.
Can I say this?
Wait, hold on.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Go ahead, Leon.
Let me ask Bull something. Bull, who are my people? You're talking about his people. Who are my people? What do you mean by that?
He's not
African.
African.
My people? As if but he's talking like he knows the nigga. Like who's my people?
That's what I'm saying. He's trolling. That's why I try to just
he on
talk
some
over.
bullshit, bro.
Yeah, that's obvious. But what would you say, Leon, to that? What would you say, Leon, to that point? So basically,
you're gonna have to repeat the point again, bro.
When it comes to the difference between the peoples, we both got messed up by the European and their nation to this day. But one took cattle slavery, hard slavery, moved in and took over, where they became the main population. Different from what they did in the central part of Africa, where they are basically leaving those people there. They all look the same, but they're ruling it by taking their resources, etc., etc. What would you say is the biggest effect, the biggest effect difference from that?
The biggest effect, what I would say, was the direct response and effect that happened with Party A and Party B. Party A is the American slave trade and how they dealt with them and how they did the peoples. Very grimy, very dirty, very disrespectful. Basically, you wasn't even a human. They annihilated the fuck out of that whole population right there. And with Party B, party number 2 being the Africans or the other colonial countries that they ended up taking over, how they did them. They did them by
systematic.
Yeah, systematic. But yes,
they changed the language. They changed the tribalism. They changed a lot of stuff every single 5 to 10 years.
Hi, moderators, put me in the queue. This time travel machine is fucking fascinating. What year are we in now?
How many African countries currently? And first off, I want to make this very clear to everybody in the room and beyond. I want to make this very clear. Africa is a continent. It is not a country. 100%. It's a continent.
It's a country.
What do you mean by
that?
It's a country. It's a big country. Damn, he had to clear that up for us.
Oh, no, that's right. Yeah, it might be time for me to close my eyes.
All right, good night. Get off Clubhouse.
Good morning.
So as she leave, they know we out.
I don't want to have any kids here because the societal culture is so trash, right? There's no... the problem is there is no upper class culture here, right? Everybody aspires to be the worst of the worst here. Like, where I live right now is the ice capital of the world, right? Just think about that for a minute.
Interesting.
Well, if you were a true believer, you would have kids regardless of where you're at because you'd want to be fruitful and multiply.
No, you can't, bro, because you're not even you can't even afford a house. How are you gonna have your children buying anything? They're gonna move away anyways, right? This is not Israel. This is why I think Israel does good. Actually look up to Israel, the Zionist ideology. Like, no matter what you say about the Jewish people, whatever, but like what they're doing with like the whole cellular, plans makes sense because they're literally thinking about the long term, strategy of survival of the Jewish people in Israel, right? The settlements make sense, right? If you look at the construction of housing in Western country, free markets, they don't make sense. Like, you're not living with your community, you're living with a stranger next door. Like, my next door neighbor is a Hindu, right? I'm a Christian, but what the fuck do I have in common with him? Like, he worship cows. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, but in America, people live their whole lives and never even say hello to the neighbor. They have no idea who they are. Once you're inside your house, you don't even know who you're living next to. You could have a neighbor in an apartment complex, live there 20 years and never even say hello to the person. So there is no community. It's like it's gone.
In the 1950s and 60s, when you had immigration coming in, the whites fled the cities because they didn't want to deal with rising crime, right? Mass migrations of immigrants. And back then in the 50s and 60s, even the whites, right, if you think about it, they would say hello, but that's all they would do. That's a problem, right? And I'm not saying all whites. There were still associations, right? Like Rotary clubs and book clubs, sure. But, like, you didn't have any culture besides, like, money and freedom to really talk about. So, like, the small talk of America where you're like, oh, it's a beautiful day. How are you doing? But don't tell me really how you're doing because I just want you to say, fine, thank you. That started happening in America in the 1700s, 1800s because all the Protestant denominations didn't want to impose didn't want to offend the other Christians so that they could have more future customs, right? So actually, what you're complaining about is something that came about as a result of multi-Protestant denominational America, where as far as they were concerned, they were different religions because they disagreed on fundamental life. And because of that, we saw what would happen before Islam and all these other religions come into America and Catholicism. The Protestants already screwed themselves by saying, we want to have a non-denominational, non-religious society, but we want everyone to have their own church, right, or their own town church, but we don't want there to be like a church institution, and we can't because we all disagree. It was never supposed to be unity in America, unfortunately. The freedom of religion and the freedom of all the Protestant 4,000 folks in America plus over the last 200 years shows that America was supposed to be the land of infinite experimentation, not of unity, not of solidarity, not of
gay lords. Is a Chicago street gang, which was most active.
And it's not that the founding fathers did this on purpose, trying to destroy this country. They thought they were saving this country by being anti-Catholic, anti-European, anti-patriotic.
My very first
but actually instead they created a culture and political norm that would deconstruct Christianity and Protestant values over time, where you could not enforce your values onto your community or your society, except political activists can, political ideologues can, but Christians can't. So by Christians not being able to bring their Christian faith into politics, it was preordained that Christians would lose political power in America. And you can kind of see this happening in the 1900s, where all the Christian elites of America, who used to be the patrician class, are shoved out by the middle class and FDR's intellectual academic class. And now all the best families of America, whose kids were trained to be bureaucrats, judges, lawyers, etc., they went into the free market, right? So the Christians had to leave government, but then Marxists and leftists and liberals can push their ideas, right? So America is a country where Protestant Christians are the only ones not pushing their values into the public space. But every other Peter Pan, false preacher, politician, pundits, professors, performers, peddlers who sell their wares, they have a free market. They can push their ideas spiritually. They can make ads, sexualizing women to your children, and that's the free market. But Christian values in the public space, no. Within institutions, no. Running in Congress as a Christian, open Christian who wants to push Christian values into their state or county, that's illegal. Not illegal, but pro-policy. So, actually, Christian Protestant liberalism is a deconstructive, deracinating force that destroys your own religion over time because you don't want to offend them, because you want to make more money and have more customers. In other words, Protestant liberals have traded God for money, God for equality, God for tolerance. And their new Protestant religion over the last 100 years is equality, tolerance, and acceptance. Because that's how you make the most money. If you do trade with every country in the world without war, a free trade a trade empire, right? A trade federation, well, we can end all wars. That's what, Wilson said. If we make a UN and the strongest countries around the world enforce it, we can literally create a free trade system and end all wars in the future by everybody being dependent on it. Is that what happened in the last 100 years? No, we had World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnamese War, and then the countless other wars in other parts of our empire. So, to me, liberalism and Protestantism are the most deconstructive forces that led to Marxism. What Mao had to use state force to destroy your culture, destroy your tradition, destroy your habits and how you interacted with other people and your social norms and culture, customs, rituals. Americans have destroyed their own cultures and rituals every generation by not participating.
So what is it about Protestantism then? Is it because it's anti-collective?
Yes, it's anti-authority, anti-Catholic Church, anti-Anglicanism. So a lot of these old Anabaptists, if you read about the Anabaptists, they sound like trash talk progressive. We want egalitarianism, we want commune where everyone's equal, everybody has the same amount of land. They're literally proto-communist. And then if you read the Quakers, they're hyper-egalitarians too. Men and women are equal, there should be no priests, there should be no sacraments, there should be no rituals or customs that are sacred. And they used to literally cover themselves in shit and go into other Protestant churches to make fun of them. They were some of the most radical out of all the other Protestants. And they're like, what the fuck are you guys?
You said the Anabaptists?
No, these are the Quakers I'm talking about now, both of them. The Quakers hated all authority, all hierarchy, so they are literally the Quakers won out in culture in America. It wasn't the Puritans who won out. It wasn't the Southern feudalist slave owners who won out. It was actually Quaker culture of live and let live and make as much money as possible. And the Dutch were similar in that. The Dutch Protestants and the Quakers are similar but different. They're both deconstructed. Look at the Dutch mercantilist empire. They wanted to bring immigrants from all over Europe, even North Africa. They had Muslim farmers in Dutch New York and in the Netherlands. Okay? They wanted everyone from around the world to come to the Netherlands and to produce cattle. Okay? All the problems that we're dealing with, they did it first. They had hypercapitalism, they had the free market, they had Wall Street, they had inflations, they had bubbles, they had the tulip currency, bubble pop. All the things that we're going through, they went through first. they had transnational corporations in the Dutch West and East trading companies who had so much authority that they could wage war if they wanted. And the Dutch backed them. The Dutch government.
You know what I don't understand is like, why isn't there a country that has ever been able to essentially create just a banking class where it's nothing but banking, you know, like.
That's what the Jews kind of did, though, in the Middle Ages, right? That was their role, because the Catholics hated usury.
But
right?
what I'm saying is the collective intelligence of the herd or the population of said country.
I'll tell you why, though. These merchant societies who are solely merchant and non-religious, and like economic free trade zones, or a collective of merchants from different countries in Europe will never work, because as soon as they get attacked, there's nothing deeper unifying them and keeping them together, whereas what religion there is. And they can all scatter to the wind and say, "Fuck you guys! I don't care if you guys live or die. I'm out secretly." That's the problem. That's it. Look, there's two types of merchants. There's a merchant that's been in your town for 200 years, right? Their family, and then there are the merchants that travel around. Who do you trust more? The merchant who lives in your town, or the merchant who can travel around and could be a snake oil salesman and sell you bunk shit and you'll never see them?
Well, what I'm saying is war is what resets all communities, societies, nations, etc.
Revolution and war.
Revolution and war.
Look, yes. So look at the English Civil War. At that time, the average marriage rate for young men were 28. They were getting restless. They were getting pissed off, right? So they joined the English Civil War.
You might be on. I think you might have hit your mute button, Joe.
Sorry. What was the last sentence I said before I got muted?
Something. I don't know. I can't remember anymore.
Anybody remember the last sentence I was saying?
You're mentioning some like dynasty or historical family or period or something in England or something.
Oh yeah, the English Civil War. So the young incels, right? The young male incels love war and revolution because they might become it's like the socialists and communists. They might join the new like middle class or upper class, right? So treasure, right? Getting treasure at the end of the war and then being able to buy land and be a peasant. So young men, when it gets too hard over time, then they'll rebel. So when the average age of marriage reached 28 in England, is when you saw the English Civil War happen, actually. Which means, like, for you to get married was so hard and expensive that you had to wait until you're 28 to get married. Whereas traditionally, they would get married at 16 to 21, right? See that difference? So same thing happened in America, right? You have to be 30, 35 to get married as a man now, at least, right? And we've passed that point. So now why haven't we had a revolt in America? Because they've provided enough luxuries and amenities for the average guy to be okay with this. Because they get infinite porn, infinite dopamine, infinite entertainment, consumption, buying gadgets. Every new gadget comes out, ooh, shiny toy, new Lego set, oh, collectible this, collectible that. They've turned men into what women were in the 70s and 80s, which were consumers, buying like K-pop posters and J-pop posters and all the posters for every Backstreet Boys and the sticker set for every Backstreet Boys and, concert tickets. And like, we've basically become that in the West for young men. So they've actually done everything right that would prevent a reaction from the lower working class men of your society, actually. So because they've hit all the conditions and like free porn or prostitutes and OnlyFans, like the men's dopamine, all the dopamine things are being hit so that they don't revolt.
Is it cultural though? I mean, I can go to I don't know. It's just always an index within every culture still, no matter.
No. Historically, yes, before like technology, but in the last 20, 30 years, I can't even see any men rebelling in the Middle East right now. Where's the rebellion? Where's the rebellion in Korea? Where's the rebellion in all these countries that are ossified? They don't. They can't. They won't. For some reason. It's weird. I agree with you, but I think like democracy and civic nationalism it does a really good job in suppressing. Unless if you're able to maintain it, and brainwashing through schools does a really good job of feminizing men too. So that was another part of the process that led to this. I agree. That culture that you're speaking about is just bureaucratic propaganda at school. Right?
I don't know. I really do philosophically believe that there's not a speck of dust out of place in the whole universe. Like, yes, we may complain, but still there's like great equilibrium. The fact that we're like safe in our homes in America having this conversation while we're $40 trillion in debt, and there's hasn't been a nuclear bomb since World War II, in an active war. I don't know, there seems to be a great I think it's like kabuki theater. Like all this
Wait, but don't you also think that China and America for the first time in like 70 years might actually start pointing weapons at each other though? And
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think China and the
I'm
U.S.
not saying that
will go to
it'll
war.
happen, but I think we are getting to a place where that might be an outcome because of the trade wars. And trade wars can lead to real war.
I don't think with China. I think China is smart enough to always just do a proxy war, and America is smart enough to also just see proxy wars
Yeah, but
prevent.
the proxy war is literally Taiwan though. Their only proxy war is Taiwan and Hong Kong.
No, it's manufacturing. All the Chinese weapons end up wherever the proxy war is. It doesn't matter where it's at.
Yes, right. But regardless, we're losing out in the long term if we continue this relationship in the same way we've done with China, with like free trade for them and not for us. Like they're gonna be able to dominate us.
I know, but they are already opening up. They're already opening up to Western markets, meaning Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, all the big financial service corporations are already making inroads.
It's already right, but at this moment, right now, they have the military superiority, bro.
I'm just saying, if China.
They can make thousands of drones a year, right? And imagine you have a $20 billion carrier, and the Chinese, way more than that, but whatever. But imagine that they send even like 40,000 drones because they each cost like $1,000 or $500. That's worth it to destroy one carrier. Even sending 50,000 drones is worth it to destroy one carrier. Because the carrier is worth like $2 billion, bro. So if you
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, exactly. Hold up. We're military fucked right now. Like, this is the equivalent of like World War I, where you have cavalry forces running down the field while the other side has fucking tanks and shit, and running over your trenches.
That was the Polish against the Germans. The Polish still had cavalry and still believed that they could win against the tanks.
Bro, you are investing in $2 billion carriers and $200 million destroyers that can be destroyed by $2 million of drones.
No, I agree. I
don't think you understand like how bad of a situation we're in, because right now China is realizing that they could kind of take over Taiwan and get away with it, right? Because they're not going to use nukes. America's not going to use nukes, and then they don't have any others. They haven't created a NATO of East Asia, which they should have done over the last 30 years. They should have, but then that would have insulted China. So if they did it, it would have been. This situation's fucked up, and basically, right? No matter what they do at this point, they're fucked. Either they destroy the relationship with China, and now America has no production, and now we're fucked and have to spend the next 30 years to figure out production in Mexico or America or some other place, maybe Canada, right? And we're going to destroy the economy that we have in America, basically, where the middle class, the working class will not be able to go out and eat. The lower middle class won't be able to go out and eat anymore, except once a year again, like back in the 50s. Like, that's literally where we're heading back to. Like, the days of the working class being able to eat McDonald's 3 times a day and not cook is gone. And that is literally how the working class in America have run for the last 20, 30 years. Literally, the dollar menu of McDonald's literally kept the workers fed. Right? So now that McDonald's is $15.
But Gio, what is the intent of China? Meaning, how advanced is their psychological IQ to know that war is probably not actually what they want?
Long term. No, it's not. But they also realize that America is reacting whether they like it or not. Right? The American voters are reacting. The American leaders are reacting. They're saying, wait a minute, like COVID showed them that they have no operational security. They have no OPSEC. They have no logistical security. They have no production security. And because of that, the
Yeah, but to say
Like,
that
what
COVID.
Hold up. What are you gonna do? One last thing. What are you gonna do when Russia just dominates the North Sea, right, and the Arctic Circle? Because America's been paying attention to like Afghanistan instead of the Arctic in the next 20 years.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't even get the oil out of China, out of California. Why do we care about the oil up there?
No, it's not even oil. It's them being petrodollar. It's petrodollar. Oh my God, that's petrodollar. First of all, second of all, why would you want Russian nuclear submarines secretly above Canada and Greenland? Like, why would you be okay with that?
I mean, nobody is, but it's a barren fucking wasteland.
Hold up, just real quick. Isn't that what we went through the Cuban Missile Crisis over? Where the Soviets were putting fucking missiles that could hit America and Cuba?
Yeah, but that's in our belly.
Another Cuban Missile crisis?
You're talking about an inoperable area full of fucking icebergs.
Massive around resources. Hold on. The Arctic has a massive amount of natural gas, oil, and other minerals which America needs for military manufacturing.
I know, but extraction is very difficult. It's not easy to operate up there.
But this is like critical. This is like buying Alaska, right? Who knows, 100 years down the line, you have the technology to actually do that shit, right?
I know, but domestically in the United States, we have enough oil and gas for hundreds of years. It's a huge country.
No, it's not what we have. It's what they get access to. What are you not understanding about this?
I'm just saying that the extraction up there is so difficult. It's kind of a pointless conversation.
It doesn't matter. Russia needs other places to get oil. Did you know, due to the Holly Smooth tariffs of the 1900s, Japan was one of the biggest importers of American oil and gas. The only 90% of their oil and gas came from the United States in the 1880s, 1900s, sorry. So when the Holly Smooth tariff passed, and they said we're not selling oil and gas to the rest of the world anymore, Japan was one of the worst affected by it. Now, what happened as a result of that? Pearl Harbor. They were pissed that you're not selling them oil.
Listen, the only point I wanted...
Southeast Asia and the Philippines. And in America, gunboat diplomacy stopped them from getting the oil in Philippines. The Japanese have no access to oil, right? Like, what you have to realize is that Russia, for them to function, they have to get those oil fields. So either you're going to give it to them and set up a scenario where in the next 80 to 100 years, they're going to be stronger, or you can take it over and prevent them from taking it so that there is no alternative for the Russians for extra oil and access to oil in the future. Like, this isn't just, we have enough oil, so we should let Russia take over every oil field around the world. This basic geopolitics.
Okay, but this is... Hold on one second. Hold on one second. This is the only point I wanted to make about China and their philosophy or psychology. If you read the Tao Te Ching book, which is, the second most popular book ever produced in human history. The point is... Well, this is the now is all important. You can... Hold on. You can take us on the time machine trip in this room all night long. It's fine. Just give me 10 seconds. The point is, in the Tao Te Ching, it's stressing the importance of avoiding conflict. And so therefore the Chinese are like maximum risk adverse individuals when it comes to war. And when you watch the videos of the soldiers on the new aircraft carrier, etc., you're talking about soldiers who I don't think are really like bloodthirsty, world conquering, dominating people. You're talking about like a very educated people. They're not like that. I don't think that they're essentially conquering people.
We were talking about Russians, not Chinese. Hold up. First of all, we were talking about the Russians with the North Sea, not the Chinese.
No, prior to that, we were talking about the Chinese. Prior to the Russians, we were talking about the Chinese conflict.
No. You're taking words out of my mouth.
I'm not.
When I was talking about... Hold up. Let me book that. When I was talking about Chinese military capacity, it wasn't to invade these dumb